Welcome, everyone, to Session 3, Unit 2, Joseph, Testimony, Visitation, and Mystery. What participants should have read up to this point for this session. Participants should have read Surahs 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the Qayyumu'l-Asma. They should also have reviewed the Joseph summary and timeline from Session 2, especially the opening dream, Jacob's warning, the brothers' hidden opposition, and the theme of concealment before recognition. Sandra, will you read the goal?
Sure. To see how the Joseph story begins to enter the world of the Qayyumu'l-Asma more visibly. In Surahs 1 through 4, the book established its authority, the gate, the remembrance, the test of knowledge, the test of faith, and the city of response. In Surahs 5 through 8, Joseph comes forward by name, and the dream, warning, testimony, visitation, and mystery begin to unfold as living signs of the Bab's revelation. In this session, we begin to hear Joseph not only as a scriptural figure, but as a pattern of hidden beauty, sacred descent, divine testimony, covenant, martyrdom, and recognition.
Thank you. Surahs 5 through 8. Joseph, testimony, visitation, and mystery. Unit 2 carries the reader from the general world of the book into the living pattern of Joseph. The story begins to speak directly from within the book. These 4 surahs may be approached as one movement. Surah 5, Joseph introduces the dream, division, the prostration of the sun, moon, and stars, and the hidden station of beauty. In Surah 6, testimony turns the dream into warning, secrecy, covenant, sacrifice, and a concealed knowledge of the divine affair. Surah 7, visitation reveals favor, interpretation, the family of Jacob, Abrahamic fulfillment, and the sacred nearness of visitation. Surah 8, mystery gathers Joseph and his brethren into signs for seekers, opening the symbolic architecture of letters, covenant, accountability, resurrection, and hidden knowledge. This unit marks the first visible emergence of Joseph as a living revelatory structure. The dream begins to speak as testimony, testimony deepens into visitation, and visitation opens into mystery. Four guiding lenses for Unit 2. The first unit gave us the pattern openly: kingship, clerics, faith, and city. Unit 2 now shows that the same fourfold movement can take a new form. Joseph asks, what is hidden beauty? Testimony asks, what must be born, concealed, or witnessed? Visitation asks, where does favor become nearness? Mystery asks, what lies beneath the visible story? This carries the same living rhythm of the first unit at a higher level. Authority has appeared, knowledge has been tested, faith has been called into recognition. Now the Joseph story begins to unfold inwardly as vision, warning, visitation, and mystery. Reading Lens 1, Joseph as hidden beauty. Surah 5 opens with Joseph's dream. 11 stars, the sun, and the moon prostrated before him. This is the first great Joseph image to come forward openly. The dream reveals Joseph's hidden station before the world is ready to receive it. In the Qayyumu'l-Asma, this dream becomes a sacred key. The sun, moon, and stars are read as signs of a divine family, a sacred lineage, and a hidden station of beauty that will only be understood through revelation. Key themes. The dream reveals station before recognition. Joseph is hidden beauty before he is public authority. The sun, moon, and stars become symbolic witnesses. Prostration becomes a sign of spiritual recognition. The dream opens a field of interpretation. Arabic watchwords, Yusuf, is Joseph, hidden beauty, and he represents the chosen one. Ruya is a vision, dream, and unveiling. Kawakib are stars, heavenly witnesses. Shams is the sun. Kamar is the moon. Sujud is prostration, recognition, submission before divine station. And Husayn is the martyred imam, drawn into the Joseph pattern. For the reader, the dream may be heard as more than a prediction. It unveils hidden station. The dream shows who Joseph is before anyone else understands him. And this is one of the deepest patterns of revelation. The truth is real before it is recognized. Reading question: what does it mean for a divine station to be shown in a dream before it is recognized in the world? Okay, let's see. Okay, we can review Surah 5 before we get into 6 here. Did anyone have any questions about Surah 5 in particular?
Yeah. I kind of have a quick related question, and that is on the story of Joseph. Is there really archaeological and other historical evidence in terms of this? Is this story just a metaphor, or how much history is it actually? In other words, did he eventually become the ruler of Egypt, or what is the thought about that?
I mean, there are certainly records of famines and you know, in Egypt being the center of commerce during those times, and you know, there was migrations of many different peoples. It can't be discounted. As far as archaeological evidence, you'd have to you know, research that particular field. You know, one thing that I know is that you know, man builds statues and God writes books. So the truth is in the Word of God. It's not in the history, or it's not in the archaeological record.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it doesn't really matter to me how much is historical or archaeological fact. The story has a great spiritual value, which is the truth. That's the spiritual truth, you know. So that's what counts the most.
Yeah, the thing in particular about this surah is the association of Joseph with Hussein, and you know, in saying that, it takes some, you know, understanding and of history, and recognition of some identity, like we were talking about earlier, and station. Otherwise, the significance of Joseph, you know, passes you by. And you know, that's the tragedy of Joseph at this point. So
Well, that's
you know,
better.
like we were saying here, you know, some of the theme is that the dream, it reveals station before recognition. His
Mm-hmm.
hidden beauty before his public authority.
Mm-hmm.
And then here, from the verse from the Quran, it says, "O Father, I beheld 11 stars, the sun and the moon. I saw them prostrate before me."
Mm.
And so this is, a vision he has of the beauty of God. He's the first to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Since he's the first to see it, to him, it appears everything's prostrating to him.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's prostrating to God.
Mm-hmm. Could this possibly be a reference to the 12 imams, and it was the occultation, and then 1,000 years later, the Bab came?
It is, and the book. That's why the book opens up, with the list of the imams
Mm-hmm.
here in Surah 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so the book itself was conveyed from the hidden imam,
Mm-hmm. Right.
or from his presence, more literally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so or you could say by his authority.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or under the authority of the hidden imam.
Mm-hmm.
So the way the story unfolds um, is layer by layer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first layer of it is the dream,
Mm-hmm.
and then the second layer comes in. You know, from the Father. Don't tell your brothers the vision,
Mm-hmm.
for they'll plot against you. And then that brings us to here. You can read here. Sandra, would you like to read this? Reading lens 2.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, reading lens 2. Main idea. Surah 6 begins with Jacob's warning to Joseph. Do not relate thy vision unto thy brothers, lest they plot against thee. Here the dream becomes dangerous. Hidden beauty must be guarded. The truth has appeared, but it cannot be disclosed openly. This surah turns the Joseph story toward testimony and secrecy. It introduces the danger of premature disclosure, the hostility of the brothers, the role of Satan, and the mystery of what must be borne in silence. Key themes. The dream must be concealed because recognition has not yet ripened. The brothers represent nearness without true sight. Satan becomes the force that exploits hidden opposition. Testimony becomes what the soul bears before God. And the concealed affair carries sacrifice, blood, covenant, and divine purpose. Arabic watchwords: shahada, testimony, witness, bearing truth. Qaid,
Aid.
plot, conspiracy, scheme, hidden opposition. Seer, mystery, secret, concealed reality. Satan, the adversarial force that turns nearness into opposition.
Odd.
Covenant, and then blood
Yeah.
sacrifice, testimony through suffering. For the reader, this surah teaches that not every truth can be spoken before its time. Some truths must be born, guarded, and witnessed inwardly until the appointed hour. The Joseph story, therefore, becomes a lesson in concealment, patience, and the danger of those who are near outwardly but veiled inwardly. Reading question. Why does Jacob warn Joseph not to disclose the dream? And how does that warning become a spiritual principle in the Qayyumu'l-Asma?
There's one for Bill. Why does Jacob warn Joseph not to disclose the dream?
Well, it's not just a matter of safety and the brothers turning against him, but there's an appointed time for many, many things, and the time has to be ripe. It has to be the right time. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's a good answer. This one continues with Surah 6. One of the reading lens 3, Husayn within the Joseph pattern. Main idea. One of the most important turns in this unit is the movement from Joseph to Husayn. Surah 5 reads Joseph's vision through Husayn, and Surah 6 deepens this by bringing in blood, sacrifice, captivity, opposition, and testimony. The Joseph story opens into the sacred history of the Imams, especially the martyrdom of Husayn. Through Joseph, the sorrow of Husayn, the witness of the Imams, the station of the remembrance, and the Bab's own revelation are gathered into one widening field of meaning. Key themes: Joseph's dream becomes linked to Husayn's station. The sun, moon, and stars become signs of sacred lineage. Martyrdom becomes a form of testimony. Hidden beauty is often recognized only through suffering. The grief of Joseph and the grief of Karbala begin to echo one another. Arabic watchwords: Husayn, the martyred Imam, the vestal fruit, the sacred sufferer, the grandson of Muhammad through Fatima and Ali, remembered in Islamic sacred history as a figure of purity, suffering, sacrifice, and faithful testimony. In this surah, Joseph's vision is used to unveil Husayn's hidden station. Ahlul Bayt is the Holy Family. The Imam is the divinely guided leader and sacred witness. Bala is trial, affliction, ordeal. Qatl is killing. Martyrdom, being laid to rest by opposition. Karbala and Taf is the field of martyrdom, where whether named directly or present by sign. For the reader, sacred history unfolds as a living pattern. So here we're seeing the pattern again. Joseph is Joseph, yet Joseph opens into Husayn. Husayn is Husayn, yet his suffering also becomes a sign of the hidden beloved. Reading question: how does linking Joseph with Husayn change the way we hear the dream, the brothers, the warning, and the hidden station? And for Surah 6 in particular, it's pretty moving. He said, "O my son, relate not thy vision unto thy brothers, for they may plot a conspiracy against thee. Verily, Satan is an avowed enemy of mankind." And then the surah takes the story from the vision of Hussein saying to Ali, his father, "I saw the stars." Then Ali's response to Hussein is here from verse 9 to through 18. Sandra, will you read these verses?
Which verses am I reading? I'm sorry.
9 through 18.
In the Qayyumu'l-Asma?
Yes, right.
9. And
Yeah, in Surah 6.
okay, I'm sorry. I have to do it on my iPad because I can't see. 6. 9 through 18. Therefore, Ali said, "O my son, Speak not of that which God hath shown thee of thine affair, for thy brothers may become apprehensive and renounce God, the most exalted, and very truth. For God is ever mighty, praiseworthy. Shouldst thou inform them of thine affair, even a glimpse of what God hath decreed for thee, they may plot a conspiracy against thee, in which they would destroy themselves for the love of God in thy rightful place as a witness. Verily, God hath willed what he hath willed, an ablution upon the earth by the very essence of the truth from thy blood-reddened face. Verily, God hath willed what he hath willed, to disclose thy hair tinged with thine own blood, and thine very own self decisively and unceremoniously slain in battle upon the earth, and thy bare body cast upon the earth. Verily, God hath willed what he hath willed, to disclose thy daughters and thy consorts as captives, held unjustifiably in the hands of the opposition. Verily, God hath willed what he hath willed, to reveal the faces of thine adherents between thine very own hands, stained with their own blood, and their discarded bodies indecorously scattered upon the earth. Therefore, reveal not of what God hath ordained concerning thine essential purpose within the concealed mystery of the testimony of divine oneness for thine own sake, not even a single letter of any word. Shouldst thou inform them of thine mysterious affair, even the smallest amount of the mystery as regarding the truth, they would sacrifice themselves for the love of God, in defense of thee, yearning for God. But God is infinitely kind with his devoted servants, as befitteth the truth.
Thank you. And if we look at verse 20, but the brethren of Joseph did indeed learn a letter concerning the mystery of his affair, despite the glorious mystery concealed within a mystery being concealed. So okay. So the path takes you down through through the end of the surah, and come back to this question. Okay, so how does linking Joseph with Hussein change the way we hear the dream, the brothers, the warning, and the hidden station? So one question that I had when I first read this book was how to associate the imams with the brothers,
Mhm.
because it appears the brothers did wrong. But one of the great things about the Qayyumu'l-Asma, and we said this in a previous session, was you have two ways of looking at a vision. You have, you know, a lower earthly perspective, and then there's a heavenly, angelic perspective. So we don't always understand from the literal reading what's actually being conveyed, even though we can understand the basic principles. Okay, so there's always a higher principle at play. And I think if we get into some of this, some of the next surah, then I think it'll become evident. Um, how that interplay takes place. Reading lens 4. visitation, and a fulfillment of favor. The main idea. Surah 7 opens from the Quranic verse in which God appoints Joseph, teaches him the interpretation of legends, and fulfills his favor upon him and the family of Jacob, as he fulfilled it upon Abraham and Isaac. This brings the Joseph story into a larger Abrahamic field. The key word here is favor. Favor carries divine completion, appointment, nearness, and sacred inheritance. Visitation becomes the way that hidden station is approached, honored, and made present. Key themes. Joseph is appointed and taught interpretation. Favor is fulfilled upon Joseph and the family of Jacob. The Abrahamic line is brought into the Joseph pattern. Visitation becomes nearness to the sacred reality, and the remembrance becomes advocate, warner, favor, and gate. Arabic watchwords. Nima is favor, divine bounty, and completed grace. Tawil al-Hadith is interpretation of legends. It's interpretation of stories, events, narrations. Al-Yaqub is the family of Jacob. Abba is forefathers. Ziyara is visitation, sacred approach, and devotional nearness, which is how the surah teaches to approach Husayn. Wasl and Lika is the meeting, encounter, and nearness. For the reader, visitation means more than visiting a place. It is a way of approaching the sacred. In this surah, visitation gathers memory, nearness, favor, and recognition. The one who is visited remains spiritually present. The sacred presence becomes available through remembrance, devotion, and recognition. The reading question, what does visitation mean when the one visited is not simply a past figure, but a living sign of divine nearness? Can review Surah 7, verse from Surah of Joseph. Thus did thy Lord appoint thee and teach the interpretation of legends and fulfill his favor upon thee and upon the family of Jacob, just as he fulfilled it for thy forefathers, Abraham and Isaac. For thy Lord is ever knowledgeable, wise. And in the surah, he talks about the visitation of Husayn as a visitation of God, for he's deemed his battleground as befitted the truth, his very own throne. Was there any questions that anyone had when they were reading over this surah? Sandra, would you like to read reading lens 5?
Yes.
Or Shokat, is you're on mute there. He's trying to talk to us. There you go. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Bed. Just I don't know. You are hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I am apologizing that I can't share with you in the readings because my grammar is not very good, and so I am apologizing for that.
Oh, that's okay. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Reading lens 5, the mystery beneath the story. Surah 8 opens with the statement that in Joseph and his brethren are signs for reverent seekers. This is a major interpretive key. The story opens as a field of signs hidden within Joseph and his brethren. This surah gathers the symbolic and mystical architecture of the unit. Joseph, the brothers, the 12-fold pattern, the letters, the name, the gate, the balance, the day of sorting out, the sweet and bitter waters, and the covenant of the remembrance. Key themes: Joseph and his brethren are signs. The story contains a hidden structure. The 12-fold pattern begins to appear through Joseph and his brethren. The name and the letters become part of the interpretation. The day of resurrection is a time of accountability, balance, and unveiling. And the remembrance is not hidden from the sincere, though veiled from the heedless. Arabic watchwords: ayat, signs, verses, and divine evidences.
Ikhwa.
Ikhwa, brethren, brothers, those near but veiled. Seer, mystery. Huruf, letters, sacred signs of structures. Mizan, balance. Yam al-Fasl, day of sorting out, day of decision. And Ma, water, source of life, mercy, and distinction. For the reader, the story of Joseph is full of signs. Joseph and the brothers become spiritual positions: hidden beauty, nearness without recognition, opposition, eventual return, and the testing of every soul before the balance. Reading question: what changes when we read Joseph and his brethren as signs rather than only as people in a story?
Well, that one we could discuss for a few minutes. You have some thoughts on that, Bill?
Boy, I'm still kind of absorbing it at this point. No, let me think about it a little bit more, but I'd like to hear somebody else right now.
Okay. And this Surah 8 opens with the verse, "Yea, verily, and Joseph and his brethren are signs for reverent seekers." So the question is, what changes when we read Joseph and his brethren as signs rather than only as people in a story or only as historical figures?
What changes?
And here it mentioned the day of sorting out, the Yom al-Fasl, or the day of separation. Also, verily, the day of sorting out is the implementation of the balance granted by God, prudently set before us in accordance with the most sublime truth, balanced by the upraised line. Ere long shall we relate unto you during this day what ye are to perform publicly and privily for the sake of the faith of God. So the balance is the book. And yeah.
This may, I don't know how germane this is, but believe it or not, it reminds me of something attributed to Krishna, who said, the deluded despise me clad in human form, not realizing the nature of my higher existence. And other probably they looked at him as odd or different or crazy, or they didn't really appreciate his divine station. And that once you put the spiritual lens on, you can see this through the worldly stuff and get into the world of the spirit and the world of metaphor and be more receptive to the divine meaning of things.
Mm-hmm. yeah, some of the symbolism which we'll get into in this book, especially in this surah, because it talks about, in Joseph and his brother, they're signs for seekers, but it describes the faithful versus the unfaithful.
Mhm.
And some of the symbolism it uses is for well, it was just here. Okay, here it is. God hath not conceived your composition, your formation, creation, save that ye humbly prostrate unto the most gracious along the pathway of this gate. He is indeed the one who fashioned the faithful from a water that was within the mother book, pure and sweet. And he is the one who hath appointed the realities of the unfaithful from a briny water that was within the heart of the fire, bitter and seething, distasteful. It's bitter and distasteful. So you have the two types of water: salt water, fresh water.
Mm.
And this is an example that's drawn from the Quran on the two types of water, but isn't necessarily used for the faithful versus the unfaithful in a direct manner. But here we can see the direct relation to that, and all those things that each of these categories have within them, we could use to describe the qualities of the faithful versus the unfaithful.
Mm-hmm.
And these aren't just, and I want to note too, I don't use the word belief, and especially in translation, because it's not about a belief. A belief is no better or no lesser or greater than an opinion. You can believe whatever you want, but to have faith is different. Having faith is something that you work toward. It's not a simple belief. It requires trustworthiness and spiritual qualities. And to not believe it means nothing. But to be unfaithful is to lack those qualities of a faithful person. It refers to that. It's not about beliefs. Nobody cares what anybody believes, in particular, unless it's harmful. And so that word is stronger, faithful versus unfaithful, stronger than belief and unbelief.
Mm-hmm. I think of the first verse of Qayyumu'l-Asmáʼ. The first duty prescribed by God for his servants is the recognition of him who's the dayspring of his revelation and the fountain of his laws, who representeth the Godhead in both the kingdom of his cause and the world of creation. So recognition, for me, faith or belief came after recognition, and that was after being an atheist. So
yeah. Okay, so that leads us into this next reading lens 6. The sweet water and the bitter water. The main idea, one of the important symbolic contrasts in Surah 8 is the contrast between pure, sweet water and briny, bitter water within the fire. This gives the class a first taste of how the Qayyumu'l-Asma uses elemental symbols. Water may carry mercy, life, concealment, or distinction. Fire may carry judgment, nearness, purification, or divine intensity. Key themes. The faithful are fashioned from pure and sweet water. The unfaithful are associated with briny and bitter water. Fire and water may appear together in surprising ways. The same symbol can convey mercy, testing, judgment, or hidden knowledge depending on its context. Elemental imagery is part of the book's spiritual grim. Arabic watchwords. Ma'ad was sweet water. Ma'milk or ujaj, briny, bitter, and seething water. Nar is fire. Tahara is purity. Hakika, reality, inward essence. Sabr is patience, endurance, and steadfastness.
Mhm.
For the reader, let the symbols gather meaning by reoccurrence. In this book, fire and water may stand near one another, enter one another, or reverse ordinary expectation. The group should begin noticing where fire and water appear, what surrounds them, and who is being addressed.
Mhm.
Reading question. How does the contrast between sweet water and bitter water help us understand the difference between recognition and rejection?
Mhm.
Bill gave us a pretty good answer to that already.
I I have another a thought on sweet water or bitter water. Unless you test it or taste it, you might not be able to tell the difference. That's where independent investigation of truth comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, and patience.
Mm. Mm.
Sandra, would you read reading lens 7 for us?
Yes. Reading the four together. Main idea. Unit 2 moves through 4 questions. 1. Joseph asks, what is hidden beauty? 2. Testimony asks, what must be born in secrecy and witness? 3. Visitation asks, how does favor become nearness? 4. Mystery asks, what signs lie beneath the story? This is the first unit in which the Joseph story becomes actively engaged.
She's muted, I think.
Was I
All
muted
right.
the whole
I think it
time?
was actually my connection that started going haywire, and then I think I clicked mute.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Okay, I think I'm at final reflection for Unit 2.
Okay.
Surahs 5 through 8 unveil Joseph as a living structure of revelation. His dream becomes a vision of hidden station. Jacob's warning becomes the law of concealment before the appointed hour. The brothers reveal the danger of nearness without recognition. Within Joseph's pattern, the sorrow of Husayn, the witness of the imams, the station of the remembrance, and the Bab's own revelation are gathered into one widening field of meaning. Visitation gathers favor and nearness. Mystery discloses the signs hidden within the story itself. Joseph is a prophet, dream, hidden beauty, sacred sorrow, remembrance, and pattern of recognition. Through him, the soul comes to recognize how the beloved may be present before the world has eyes to see him.
Mm.
Okay, let's see.
So, can I say something?
Sure.
I just want to say, going back to reading lens 4, the
Mhm.
question was, what does visitation mean when the one visited is not simply a past figure, but a living sign of divine nearness? They say that when you recite the tablet of visitation, for Baha'u'llah, for Abdul Baha, that you're literally standing in the presence of them.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that would be, what visitation means. It's not like you're
Yes.
just thinking about Elvis. It's
Right.
very different.
Yeah. And, it's, I'm glad you made that connection with this surah, because that's the title of the surah is, the zira. And those tablets of visitation, they are zira.
Mhm.
So, that is the theme of those tablets, is that you're in their presence.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, reading that one made me, want to recite both of those tablets just to
Yeah.
just to do it.
I think Abdu'l-Baha said, "My presence is always with you."
Mhm.
And he's very busy up there or wherever he is.
Yeah, we were talking earlier too, some of the math things we were saying and
Mhm.
science things. But how we are just energy or whatnot.
Mhm.
But the signs of a thing, it doesn't ever disappear. It continues to exist.
Mhm.
And for us, it could be whatever it is we are, continuing on in whatever form that you take. But
Mhm.
the qualities that you have remain in the universe. That's what's important. It's not the configuration of dust that
Mhm.
can and will appear and disappear infinite times.
Mhm.
It's that the constant qualities that is your makeup. Those don't even come and go. They're constantly present.
Mhm.
So, it's interesting to contemplate things like that, and you know um, doesn't make the world any lesser place.
Mhm.
Okay, looking ahead. One thing I do want to point out is how we can continue to see how every four surahs are working together.
Mhm.
We had the same thing with the kings and the clerics and faith and the city, and here we have the same thing happen. We have the vision, um, we have the warning, and then we had the visitation, or the call back to Abraham, and then the mystery. Okay, so they're all like I said, it happens in layers, and the pulse is happening in fours.
Mhm.
So looking ahead into the next unit, just looking at the titles, which we did briefly previously, you can see another set of fours. There's the Surah Divine Cloud I have is marked as 1, and Surah Divine Cloud 2, and then Surah of the Parallel, and then Surah of the Atonement. So you can see between these two that there's a parallel going on here, and then it takes you out into the atonement of the meaning of atonement.
Mhm.
So even in the themes we can see how it progresses.
Mhm.
Um, the main themes, looking ahead here at Surahs 9 and 12, the cloud, the next unit begins to move into the language of the cloud. The cloud can suggest concealment, overshadowing presence, descent, and the hidden atmosphere of revelation. Watch how the voice of the book may begin to speak from a more visionary height. The divine cloud, if the city is a public field of response, the cloud begins to feel like the veiled field of divine descent. Cloud carries more than weather imagery. It may become a symbol of hidden revelation, mercy, judgment, and the unseen movement of command. The parallel. Surah 11 is titled The Parallel. This may continue the unit's concern with signs, correspondences, reflected meanings, and sacred recurrence. Watch for places where Joseph's story is doubled, mirrored, or carried into another figure. Atonement. Surah 12 is titled Atonement. This may bring the group toward questions of purification, consequence, recompense, forgiveness, and restoration. Watch for how the book treats wrongdoing in return. What we mean by pattern returning. In Unit 2, Joseph's dreams opened into testimony, visitation, and mystery. In the next unit, the same pattern may become more atmospheric and visionary. The story continues, but it also rises into cloud, parallel, concealment, and atonement. Qayyumu'l-Asma often teaches this way. One image opens, then returns in a higher or deeper register. Read Surahs 9, 10, 11, and 12 of the Qayyumu'l-Asma, and as you read, mark any places where the Joseph story seems to move from visible story into hidden atmosphere, cloud, concealment, parallel, or atonement. Watch especially for fire, water, cloud, tree, gate, remembrance, and any movement from warning toward purification. All right. Any questions?
Very interesting.
See how immediately we jump into Surah 9, it begins with an address again. All right. Well, same time next week.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yep, you're very welcome.
Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Beth. Thank you very much for your for those classes.